All right. Okay. So welcome, everyone. This is the first of the two planned webinars on Breaking Law Ideas Lab solicitation from NSF. And before I begin the presentation on the webinar, I would like to introduce my colleagues that I join in this session. So maybe we can go around introducing ourselves, but before that, first of all, I'm Sudharman Jayaweera. I'm a program director in the Emerging Technologies section of the Tipp Directorate. And maybe Jemin can go next.
Thank you, Alhussein. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining. I am Jemin George. I'm also a program director within Tipp IT.
Huaiyu?
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Huaiyu Dai, representing the ECCS division of the Engineering Directorate.
Hussein?
Hi, everyone. I'm Alhussein Abouzeid. I'm a program director in the Computer Network Systems division in the Directorate for Computer Information Science and Engineering.
All right, thanks. So again, welcome everyone. Let's get started. Let me first start by recalling the NSF mission. In particular, pointing out that NSF mission is comprised of three elements: promote the progress of science, advance in the national health, prosperity and welfare, and securing the national defense. Typically, the first of these three, that is promoting progress of science, is what most think of as the only mission of NSF. Usually the other two goals can be either less visible or implicit in traditional NSF programs. The Chips and Science Act of 2022 has given NSF an opportunity to change that perception while still promoting the progress of science. Among other things, the Chips and Science Act identifies 10 key technology focus areas, and one of them is the advanced communications technology, which is the relevant area for this solicitation. And the reason why I brought that up, the Chips and Science Act, is that it was as part of the Chips and Science Act of 2022 that NSF established the new Directorate of Technology Innovation and Partnerships, or Tipp for short. And the specific focus was on advancing translational research in these key technology focus areas. The goal of Tipp is to accelerate the impact of technology by supporting translational activities, especially funding R&D activities spanning the so-called valley of death that are needed to move ideas from basic research to products or services with economic and societal impact. And that is squarely in line with the NSF mission objectives of advancing the national health, prosperity and welfare, and securing the national defense. I think relevant to this solicitation and many other Tipp initiatives, it is also important to point out that in executing its mission, Tipp can, and in fact it already does, fund for-profit industry and private companies as much as universities. So now, with that introduction, let's go to the Breaking Law Ideas Lab solicitation. The focus of this solicitation is on breaking the low latency barrier for vertical applications in next generation wireless networks. To put things into perspective, as many of you can recall, the initial promise of 5G was to introduce a drastic paradigm shift from previous generations of cellular networks. So specifically, 5G was to focus more on connecting machines than connecting people. And also, importantly, 5G was also envisioned to make the wireless network become part of the infrastructure that will enable other vertical applications and industries. However, with 5G deployments rolling around the world today, the reality we see is that somewhat along the way, the 5G has still advanced more or less the same way compared to the earlier cellular generations, at least when it comes to the part of enabling the verticals. Most 5G deployments today are non-standalone networks, especially in the US, aimed at providing broadband connectivity to people and do not really incorporate advanced features such as the so-called URLLC and slicing, etc. As a result, many 5G vertical applications have also not yet really taken off in a wide scale. So the current stagnation and slowdown in 5G deployments, in particular standalone deployments, can also in turn be attributed to the lack of demand due to that. And that brings us to take another look at potential next-G wireless verticals. Some of the most promising 5G and next-G wireless vertical applications are these so-called low latency verticals. And there are many, including industrial IoT, distributed control and automation applications, including the smart factories, as well as intelligent transportation systems. There are also many exciting AR, VR, and extended reality applications or wireless that are also low latency verticals, including real-time online gaming and training, remote surgery and telemedicine, and many immersive applications such as holoportation and telepresence. Of course, there are other applications as well. The common thread in many of these verticals is that they require very low latencies, perhaps on average a few milliseconds, but also with very high reliability, meaning very low jitter. The reason why this solicitation is looking at advancing the wireless technology in the specific context of verticals is because the exact required latency and reliability performance depend on the specific vertical. And in many cases, it is the application, end-to-end application latency that is of interest, and sometimes the round-trip latency. So if we are to advance the 5G next-G networks to enable low latency verticals, maybe the key to success might be to look at wireless technology development and demonstration in the context of specific verticals. And that might allow us to ensure next-G wireless technology is indeed capable of delivering the required latency performance for a particular vertical application by demonstrating it in an at-scale pilot project or testbed. So putting pieces together, the goal of this Ideas Lab solicitation is threefold. That is to first understand the end-to-end low latency, jitter, and high reliability performance required by specific emerging vertical use cases, and to identify novel approaches that have the potential to break the hurdles that exist in today's networks to meet those performance targets while maintaining the spectral efficiency. And to formulate and execute a coherent R&D plan that will lead to the technological advances necessary to engineer next-G advanced wireless networks that will meet the desired low latency and high reliability demands of identified vertical applications. And finally, to prototype and demonstrate the developed technology solutions in at-scale test beds for specific vertical use cases under a wide range of relevant network conditions. To that end, the focus of this Breaking Low Ideas Lab is on developing or advancing 5G next-G technology in the context of specifically identified low latency vertical applications so that we understand the actual application requirements in terms of end-to-end latency and reliability, and develop spectrally efficient and cost-effective wireless technology solutions that will have a high chance of success. And the focus is specifically on accelerated technology translation, both in 5G, next-G wireless technology, as well as in selected vertical industries. We believe that successfully achieving these goals require building partnerships and collaborations among all necessary tech sectors and stakeholders. And that would include, for example, partnerships among industry, academia, and government stakeholders, as well as collaborations between telecom, cloud computing, and vertical industries. And the Ideas Lab setup, as we will explain in a minute, provides a good venue and a proven format to achieve that. A key requirement of this Ideas Lab is demonstration of developed technological solutions in at-scale pilot projects. For that, we highly recommend that project teams leverage existing resources whenever possible. And some of those are the NSF power platforms and the DoD testbeds, as well as the recently funded NTIA test and evaluation centers. Finally, the ultimate goal of this Ideas Lab is to ensure US global leadership in both next-G wireless as well as emerging vertical application technologies. So now, most of you might be new to the concept of an Ideas Lab solicitation. So let's try to explain what is an Ideas Lab and how an Ideas Lab solicitation works. An Ideas Lab is an interactive workshop of experts and stakeholders to collaboratively develop potential solution approaches to a specific problem or a grand challenge identified in a solicitation. The goal of the workshop is to facilitate brainstorming among a team of experts who may not otherwise come together to collaboratively solve this specific posed problem, and to help build project teams made of members with complementary skills drawn from beyond one's own circle of collaborators. An Ideas Lab solicitation is made of 3 stages: a preliminary proposal, the Ideas Lab workshop itself, and the full proposal. Specifically, first, individuals who are interested in being part of the efforts to solve the posed problem should submit a 2-page preliminary proposal. Next, a selected set of applicants will be invited to participate in the Ideas Lab workshop. And finally, a set of selected teams emerging from the workshop will be invited to submit the full proposals. The Ideas Lab preliminary proposal must be submitted by individuals, not as teams or organizations. If there are multiple people from an organization with one or more project ideas, then they all can submit their individual preliminary proposals. The preliminary proposal is pretty short. It's only 2 pages, but there are a few boilerplate stuff like the bio and the current and pending support that you need to also submit. So I would highly recommend starting early to give yourself and your organization sufficient time. The purpose of the preliminary proposal is for us to understand your interest in the posed problem and what you personally expect to achieve by joining this Ideas Lab effort to solve it. And also to understand your technical and professional background and how it can be relevant to developing solutions to the posed problem. Also, your thoughts on potential solution approaches and your potential contributions. And finally, your personality when it comes to collaborative work and team efforts. Based on the answers to the specific questions in the preliminary proposal, the best candidates will be invited to participate in the Ideas Lab workshop. And as you will see later, solving the problem of interest in this solicitation needs expertise in not just telecom wireless networking, but also in the relevant vertical applications. So we expect to invite experts from all the relevant sectors and segments to participate in the Ideas Lab workshop. The Ideas Lab workshop is a series of hybrid meetings made of both virtual and in-person components. In particular, the in-person Ideas Lab workshop is a 3-day long meeting, and it's really important that you are available to attend the in-person workshop. So please mark your calendars with the dates, the July 22nd to July 24th, and in a location around DC area. As already mentioned, the participants of the workshop will be selected from diverse backgrounds and a broad range of expertise covering all areas relevant to the post problem of interest. The Ideas Lab workshop is a facilitated meeting, meaning that there will be a team of professional workshop facilitators who will guide the proceedings. On the technical side, the Ideas Lab workshop will be led by a workshop director and a team of about 5 mentors. The workshop director and the mentors are selected based on their background, knowledge, and the interest in the problem. And of course, they're supposed to be neutral, and they will not be eligible to receive funding from the solicitation. The task of facilitators, workshop director, and the mentors is to help participants to interact with each other, to self-assemble into teams and collaboratively develop solutions to the posed problem. They will provide real-time feedback to the teams on their ideas. So during the 3-day workshop, each self-assembled team will keep developing and refining its approach to come up with the pitch for a full proposal. On the last day of the Ideas Lab workshop, the teams will pitch their solution approaches to NSF. And we will select and invite some, none, or all the teams to submit full proposals. And once invited to submit a full proposal, the teams will have the chance to recruit new additional members to complement any missing expertise needed to develop full solutions. And the full proposals will be reviewed, and then again, either some, none, or all might be selected for funding recommendation. Now, by this time, I hope it is clear what we hope will happen at the end of the workshop is that participants will self-assemble into teams proposing potential next-generation wireless solutions to specifically identified low latency verticals. So we want the participants of the workshop to be from all segments of the end-to-end wireless network, including, of course, wireless telecom and cloud segments, but also from specific low latency vertical use cases. While obviously the required technical expertise areas include the wireless cellular and wireless LAN networks, emerging low latency vertical applications, cloud and distributed computing, and edge device platforms, there are also other areas that we might have not listed, and you are welcome to submit preliminary proposals if you believe your expertise is relevant for the posed problem. And also, given the nature of the required R&D and technology demonstration, we believe having both academia and industry presence is important. Teams having a mix of academic and industry partners may potentially result in the desired accelerated technology development, demonstration, and translation. So in summary, we encourage experts with all relevant and related technical expertise from both industry and academia to apply. So the first step for you is to submit a preliminary proposal. As I mentioned earlier, the project description of preliminary proposal is just 2 pages long. All you need to provide is answers to this set of 8 specific questions. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read these questions, but I want to emphasize that when you answer these, you do not need to copy paste the question. It will only take more space. So, but make sure that you clearly order and label your answers for this specific question. The point of these specific questions is to be able to evaluate your suitability to be a participant in the Ideas Lab workshop, not just in terms of your technical background and what you bring to solve the posed problem, but also in terms of your personality and willingness to collaborate with others. The preliminary proposals will be panel reviewed, and NSF will select and invite a subset of respondents to participate in the Ideas Lab workshop. We expect to invite at least 30 participants to the Ideas Lab workshop. And the selections will be based on the interest, expertise, experience, and other relevant characteristics described in the submitted preliminary proposals. It's very important to note that submission of a preliminary proposal will be considered an indication of your availability to attend and participate in the full course of the Ideas Lab workshop, and that is the virtual meetings plus the 3-day in-person workshop. The goal of the Ideas Lab workshop is to allow participants to work collaboratively to identify end-to-end low latency requirements of specific vertical use cases and critical technology gaps to cost-effectively realize those low latency performance targets in wide area next generation wireless deployments, to define the scope of the R&D, vertical use case pilot projects, and at-scale testbed demonstration challenges relating to the design, development, and deployment of next-generation networks, and to develop comprehensive solutions containing genuinely innovative investigations that may lead to potentially disruptive technological advances, breaking new ground in ultra-low latency communications and the vertical markets enabled by extremely low latency wireless networks. At the end of the workshop, the self-assembled collaborative teams will pitch their proposed R&D and technology development solution approaches for a potential full proposal to NSF. Selected teams from the Ideas Lab workshop will be invited to submit full proposals. And these invitations will be sent out within 2 to 3 weeks after the workshop. Full proposals should, of course, conform to the project outline developed and pitched to NSF at the conclusion of the workshop. And if substantive changes from that outline are contemplated, an NSF program director should be contacted for guidance. Proposals are expected to identify specific emerging low latency vertical use cases, the low latency and reliability requirements of them, and develop pilot projects to prototype, test, and validate the developed technologies in at-scale testbed demonstrations. So we encourage the full proposal teams to partner with telecom operators, low latency mobile wireless vertical market stakeholders, and edge cloud service providers to validate develop technological solutions under a wide range of use cases, scale, and infrastructure. Deliverables from the funded projects can include prototypes, tests, and validations, and at-scale testbed and pilot demonstrations of developed low latency communications technologies for currently known or novel vertical applications. Finally, we also encourage full proposals to include a roadmap with sufficient details on plans for possible follow-up activities beyond the 2-year project period. These could be both in mobile wireless networking side or in vertical application side. The reason is that based on the success of the 2-year projects, NSF may consider supporting both follow-on projects through supplemental and no other funding opportunities subject to availability of funds. Finally, when teams are invited to submit full proposals, they must clearly address the following solicitation-specific review criteria. That is, does the proposal clearly identify the need for millisecond range end-to-end latencies for specific vertical use cases and key technical and technological hurdles to achieving them in current 5G, next-G cellular and no wireless LAN designs? Second, are the proposed R&D and at-scale testbed and or pilot demonstration plans clearly aimed at overcoming the identified technical and or technological barriers? And third, if successful, how will the project impact next generation wireless landscape and low latency vertical markets? Full proposals derived from the Ideas Lab will also be evaluated to determine whether the scientific and engineering themes in the proposal are aligned with the ideas presented at the Ideas Lab and whether any significant changes in project scope or resources from those presented at the Ideas Lab have been justified. We expect up to 4 awards, and each award will be for 2-year duration, and the funding will be up to 3.7 million per year. The awards will be in the form of cooperative agreements, and as mentioned, there may be follow-on funding from promising projects and activities subject to availability of funding. And here are some of the important dates. Of course, the first most important date is the April 18th, which is when you need to submit the preliminary proposal. And then mark your calendars for the Ideas Lab workshop and make sure that you are available to attend the in-person workshop if an invitation is made for your participation, and that is July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And the full proposals will be due September 30th, but full proposals will be only from the teams that are selected at the end of Ideas Lab workshop. Finally, if you or your organization have not submitted the proposal to NSF in recent years, then you may want to start early. There are several necessary registrations, both at organization level and at investigator level, that could take time. And in fact, they could take several weeks. The first is that your institution needs to be registered on sam.gov and must have an UEI through the sam.gov, the unique entity identifier. And this is a prerequisite for submitting a proposal on research.gov. So the sam.gov registration can take several weeks, so please do it right away. And once you have the UEI from sam.gov, then you need to register on research.gov, which can also take a couple of days for the registration. And last, as I mentioned earlier, the boilerplate stuff, such as the bio and the current and pending, need to be actually prepared according to a specific format done through Science CV website. So that's another registration. So please start right away.